What are you girls doing back here?
Well, Molly couldn't have her slumber party because her brother's sick. And Cindy was afraid we'd catch her.
Before they were household names, before the fan mail, the magazine covers, and the kind of paychecks that make your jaw hit the floor, they were just working actors trying to survive in one of the most unpredictable businesses on the planet. Some built careers that should have made them wealthy for life. Others signed contracts that looked amazing on paper and turned into something else entirely. A few walked away from golden opportunities chasing something bigger and never found it. These are 8 beloved TV sitcom stars you grew up watching, whose fortunes disappeared in ways that will genuinely shock you. Number 1, Redd Foxx. Before he became the undisputed patron saint of grumpy old men everywhere, before Sanford and Son made him a primetime king, Redd Foxx spent decades grinding through what was known as the Chitlin Circuit. Now, if you haven't heard that term before, let me break it down. The Chitlin Circuit was the network of black-owned clubs, theaters, and performance venues across the country, where black entertainers could actually get on a stage at a time when mainstream venues simply wouldn't have them. Redd Foxx worked those rooms for years. Dirty jokes, late nights, small crowds. He was funny as all get out. He just needed someone in Hollywood to notice. Then came Fred Sanford, and everything changed overnight. Sanford and Son premiered on NBC in January 1972, and it was an absolute immediate smash hit. 6 seasons, multiple spin-offs, a theme song so iconic that just hearing the first 3 notes makes your entire body smile. At his peak, Redd Foxx was pulling in over $25,000 per episode. And remember, we're talking about the early 1970s. That kind of money back then, that's buy a mansion, buy a second mansion. No, and still have money left over for a third one just in case. Territory. So, what happened? 3 letters. IRS. For those who need the breakdown, the IRS is the Internal Revenue Service, the government agency responsible for collecting federal taxes. And Redd Foxx, for all his brilliance and all his brilliance-generated income, had what you might generously call a complicated relationship with paying them. By 1989, the IRS moved past sending letters. Federal agents actually walked onto the set of his then new show, The Royal Family, and began seizing, meaning taking away, his personal property right there, in front of cast members, in front of crew, his jewelry, his furniture, his fur coats, his cars, gone, hauled off in broad daylight like some kind of nightmare game show. It was one of the most publicly humiliating moments in Hollywood history. And it didn't stop there. Redd Foxx passed away from a heart attack in October 1991. When his estate was finally settled, there was virtually nothing left. A man who had earned tens of millions of dollars across a legendary career left behind an estate worth close to zero. The tragedy of Redd Foxx isn't just about bad financial decisions. It's about a system that never put the right people in his corner. The advisors, the accountants, the someone who would just sit him down and say, "Redd, we need to talk about what happens when this is over." Earning money and keeping money are 2 completely different skills. He mastered one. Nobody helped him with the other. Number 2, Gary Coleman. Oh, Gary. If there is a more heartbreaking financial story anywhere on this list, I genuinely do not know what it is. Gary Coleman was the breakout star of Different Strokes, which premiered in 1978 and turned this kid into one of the most recognizable faces on the entire planet. "What you talking about, Willis?" was not just a catchphrase. It was a cultural earthquake, meaning it shook up everything around it and permanently changed the pop culture landscape. Gary Coleman was on lunchboxes, on talk shows, on magazine covers. He was everywhere. At the height of the show, Gary was earning approximately $100,000 per episode. For a child actor in the late 1970s, that was almost unimaginable money. His total earnings from the show reportedly climbed somewhere between $7 million and $18 million. Whatever the exact number, it was a fortune. And a real life-changing, set-your-family-up-forever kind of fortune. Here's where the story gets genuinely devastating. When Gary turned 18 and finally gained access to the trust fund, the protected account that was supposed to have been safeguarding his money all those years, he discovered that his parents and business manager had spent or mismanaged the overwhelming majority of it. He sued them in 1989 and was eventually awarded $1.28 million in court. That sounds like a decent outcome, doesn't it? Except the legal fees required to sue your own family take a serious bite out of any number. And the emotional cost of going to court against your own parents, there's no dollar amount you can put on that damage. Throughout the 1990s and into the 2000s, Gary filed for bankruptcy, worked security jobs, and struggled to find the kind of Hollywood work that matched his talent and his legacy. He was genuinely funny. He was warm and charismatic and had real instincts as a performer, but the industry that built him up as a child couldn't figure out what to do with him as a grown man. Gary Coleman passed away in May 2010 at just 42 years old. His story isn't simply about money mismanagement, it is about an entire system, agents, managers, parents, studios, that feasted on a child's earnings for years, smiled while doing it, and left him with almost nothing when the curtain came down. Number 3, Dana Plato. And while we're in the Different Strokes universe, because apparently one devastating story from that show was never going to be enough, we have to talk about Dana Plato. Dana played Kimberly Drummond for 8 seasons, and she was genuinely beloved, warm, funny, the kind of TV big sister you actually wished you had. The chemistry she had with Gary Coleman and Todd Bridges felt real because, in many ways, it was. These were kids growing up together on camera. And then the show ended, and the world that had supported Dana Plato for nearly a decade simply stopped. Work dried up almost immediately after Different Strokes wrapped. The transition from child star to adult actress has derailed more careers than I can count. The industry tends to not know what to do with a face it already categorized years ago. Without a steady income, the savings that should have been there to catch her weren't. By the early 1990s, Dana was in a level of financial distress that is genuinely difficult to comprehend when you think about where she'd come from. In 1991, she walked into a video rental store in Las Vegas, handed the clerk a note, and walked out with $164. $164. From a woman who had spent nearly a decade on one of NBC's most watched primetime sitcoms. The pellet gun she carried made it an armed robbery charge. The public response was merciless in a way that, looking back now, is almost impossible to defend. Instead of seeing someone in genuine crisis, which is exactly what she was, much of the media treated her story as punchline material, late-night jokes, tabloid covers, a feeding frenzy where the only person who lost was Dana. She passed away in May 1999 at just 34 years old. The official ruling was an accidental overdose. I want to be real with you about this one. Dana Plato's story is not a story about recklessness. She was a young woman who was never given the tools to navigate what happened to her after the camera stopped rolling, and the people who profited from her talent when she was young were nowhere to be found when she needed them most. Hey, I want to pause here for a second because if these stories are landing on you the way they land on me every time I research them, I think you already understand why this channel exists. If you're getting something real out of this, do me a genuine favor and hit that like button right now. It takes 2 seconds and it helps this video reach more people who grew up with these shows and deserve to know these stories. And if you are not subscribed yet, come on now. You've made it this far. You're clearly one of us. Hit subscribe, ring the bell, and drop a comment below telling me which story has surprised you the most so far. I read every single one. All right, back to the list. Number 4, Jimmie Walker, Dynamite. If you didn't just say that out loud in J.J. Evans' voice, I'm going to need you to rewind 5 seconds and try again. Jimmie Walker was the breakout star of Good Times, the groundbreaking CBS sitcom that premiered in 1974 and became one of the first shows in American television history to portray a black working-class family with dignity, humor, and genuine emotional depth. Set in a Chicago housing project, Good Times was never supposed to be just a comedy. It was a statement. Jimmie's character, J.J. Evans, was originally written as a supporting player. Then the audiences got a hold of him, and that plan dissolved instantly. J.J. became the heartbeat of the show. Dynamite became one of the most quoted catchphrases of the entire decade. Jimmie Walker found himself on magazine covers, doing national endorsement deals, touring as a stand-up comedian, and pulling income from a dozen different directions at once. And then Good Times ended in 1979, and the financial reality that followed was a lesson the entertainment industry teaches over and over again. Sustaining the lifestyle of a television star requires the income of a television star. When the show stops, the bills don't get the memo. Management fees, agent commissions, the cost of maintaining visibility in an industry where being out of sight means being out of mind. All of it continues moving even when the paychecks stop. And Jimmie Walker has spoken publicly about the financial struggles that followed the show's end. And he deserves real credit for his honesty. He never disappeared. He kept touring, kept performing, kept showing up. And that resilience is a genuine part of his story. But the generational wealth that Good Times and J.J. Evans should have created, by most accounts, it simply wasn't there when he needed it most. A catchphrase can make you famous overnight, but fame, it turns out, doesn't automatically come with a financial advisor. Number 5, Sherman Hemsley, George Jefferson. The man, the myth, the owner of the most satisfying television strut in the history of the medium. Sherman Hemsley played George Jefferson on The Jeffersons. From 1975 to 1985, 10 seasons, 253 episodes, and one of the greatest spin-offs ever produced. The show was, at its core, a story about a rival, about a black family moving on up, as the iconic theme song put it, literally and financially. George Jefferson was a self-made millionaire who clawed his way up from a single dry cleaning shop to a Manhattan penthouse through sheer force of will, loud suits, and an ego the size of a small continent. He was brilliant television. Hemsley was brilliant in the role. Here is where the irony becomes almost too painful to look at directly. When Sherman Hemsley passed away in July 2012, the legal proceedings around his estate, meaning all the money, property, and possessions he left behind, revealed finances that were shockingly modest for a man of his television legacy. A drawn-out court battle erupted when a man named Richard Thornton claimed Hemsley had privately promised him his estate. The legal filings that followed painted a picture of a man whose financial situation was far more complicated and far smaller than anyone expected from the actor who spent a decade playing television's most famous self-made millionaire. What makes this story particularly haunting is what we don't know. Sherman Hemsley was notoriously private, almost aggressively so. He gave very few interviews, lived modestly, and kept the details of his personal life sealed tight. So, where did the money go? The honest answer is, we don't fully know. And that mystery is part of what makes this story so quietly devastating. George Jefferson made it to the top. It appears Sherman Hemsley never quite did. ID number 6, Marla Gibbs. Now here is a story that genuinely breaks my heart, because Marla Gibbs is a woman who tried to do it right. She didn't blow her money on cars and parties. She built something. She invested in her community, and life still came for her. Marla Gibbs played Florence Johnston on The Jeffersons, the sharp-tongued, zero-nonsense maid who somehow managed to steal every single scene she ever walked into. Florence was the kind of character where you could feel the audience perk up the moment she appeared, because everybody in the room knew something hilarious was about to happen. She was magnificent television, and Marla Gibbs made it look effortless. Using her earnings and her platform, Marla did something that looked genuinely visionary at the time. She opened Marla's Memory Lane, then a jazz supper club in the Leimert Park neighborhood of Los Angeles. Leimert Park was and is a culturally significant hub of black art and music in the city, and Marla's vision was beautiful. A gathering place, a celebration of culture, a community investment built by someone who actually loved what she was building. And for a while it worked. The club hosted real talent and became a beloved local institution. People showed up. The music was genuine. But running a restaurant and live music venue is, to put it gently, one of the most financially brutal endeavors a human being can attempt. Profit margins, meaning the money left over after you pay all the bills, in the hospitality industry are notoriously thin, often razor thin. When the economics stopped cooperating, the club closed, and the financial losses were significant enough to alter the course of Marla's life in the years that followed. She never stopped working, she never quit, and she absolutely deserves every bit of admiration for that. But Memory Lane stands as a painful reminder that passion and intention are not, by themselves, a business plan, and that even the most well-meaning investment can unravel when the numbers don't hold. Number 7, Erik Estrada. Full transparency, Erik Estrada was the star of Chips, which was technically an action dramedy, meaning it blended action and comedy, rather than a pure sitcom. But Chips had enough humor and warmth baked into it that it absolutely belongs in this conversation. and Erik Estrada's story is too important and too instructive to leave out. At his peak, Erik Estrada was one of the most recognizable faces on American television. Officer Frank Ponch Poncherello was cool, charming, and endlessly watchable. Chips ran from 1977 to 1983. It was a legitimate ratings hit, and Estrada was moving in the stratosphere. Movies, commercials, personal appearances, the works. The money was real, the fame was real, and then came the contract negotiations. In 1982, Estrada pushed back on his pay, a completely reasonable move for an actor who was clearly the show's biggest draw. The studio's response was to temporarily replace him with another actor as a negotiating tactic. The message was blunt. Nobody is irreplaceable, not even the star. When Chips finally wrapped in 1983, the high-earning years essentially ended alongside it. Hollywood wasn't sure where to slot Erik Estrada anymore. He pursued work wherever he could find it, including a long and prolific stint in Spanish-language telenovelas, the dramatic serial programs that are enormously popular across Latin America, and with Spanish-speaking audiences in the US. He eventually sold real estate. He did what he had to do. What makes Erik Estrada's story different from most on this list is his openness about it. He has spoken about these years honestly and without bitterness, and that kind of self-awareness is genuinely admirable. He adapted. He figured it out. But the financial security that a full, uninterrupted run on Chips should have produced, the residuals, the royalties, the long-term safety net, was compromised by a power struggle with a studio that held most of the cards. When you're the talent, it often feels like you have all the leverage. The studios have a way of reminding you otherwise. We are down to our last story, and honestly, I just want to say thank you for sticking with me through all of these. These aren't easy stories, but they're important ones. If this kind of deep dive content is what you come here for, hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss a video. Every week, we go back into the golden era and pull out the stories that deserve to be told. And please, drop a comment below. Tell me which of these 8 hit you hardest. Tell me if there's a star from this era whose story you think I should cover next. Your comments genuinely shape what this channel makes. All right, last one. And I saved this one intentionally because it is the one that should make every single one of us think twice. Number 8, McLean Stevenson. Here is a story about a man who had something remarkable and chose, deliberately and voluntarily, to walk away from it. And I want you to sit with that for a moment because it makes everything that happened afterward feel less like bad luck and more like a lesson the universe really, really wanted him to learn. McLean Stevenson played Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake on MASH, one of the greatest television series ever produced. MASH premiered in 1972 and became not just a ratings hit, but a genuine cultural institution. It was funny, it was heartbreaking, it was politically sharp, and it featured an ensemble cast that was, by any honest measure, extraordinary. Alan Alda, Wayne Rogers, Loretta Swit, and McLean Stevenson, who brought a bumbling, warm, a deeply human quality to Colonel Blake that made audiences love him from the very first episode. In 1975, McLean Stevenson chose to leave the show. He had been persuaded, by ambition, by agents, possibly by that small voice that whispers to all of us that we're bigger than the room we're currently in, that he could carry his own television series. He wanted to be the star, not a star. He wanted his name above the title, not buried in an ensemble. So he left one of the most successful and critically respected shows on television to go find solo stardom. What followed was, by Hollywood standards, a quiet and prolonged catastrophe. The McLean Stevenson Show. Canceled. In the beginning, canceled. Hello, Larry. Canceled. Each project arrived with hope and left with disappointing ratings. Each failure carried a financial cost. In production investment, in promotional spending, in the gap between what he had been earning as part of MASH's success and what a series of failed solo vehicles actually paid. Meanwhile, MASH kept going. It got even bigger. When the series finally ended in 1983, its finale was watched by approximately 106 million people, making it the single most watched television broadcast in American history at the time. The cast members who had stayed became legends. The residuals, which is the industry term for the ongoing payments actors receive every time an episode airs in rerun or syndication, continue generating income for the people who stayed for decades afterward. McLean Stevenson reportedly acknowledged in his later years that leaving MASH was the greatest professional mistake of his life. He continued to work, guest spots, occasional film appearances, but the wealth that a complete run on one of television's all-time greats would have produced was simply never there. He passed away in February 1996, and here's what I keep coming back to. Unlike almost everyone else on this list, McLean Stevenson was not victimized by anyone. No manager stole from him. No parent spent his trust fund. No government agent showed up and took his furniture. He made a choice, a very human, very understandable choice, driven by the completely natural desire to be recognized for more than he was in that moment. And that choice cost him everything he was already building. Yeah, sometimes the most expensive decision a person can make is deciding that what they already have isn't enough. These 8 stories are not really about money, at least not just about money. They are about the gap between the image and the reality, between the polished, laugh-tracked world that the television screen showed us every week and the genuinely messy, unpredictable, and often unprotected lives that existed just behind the camera. Red Foxx, Gary Coleman, Dana Plato, Jimmie Walker, Sherman Hemsley, Marla Gibbs, Erik Estrada, McLean Stevenson. Every single one of them gave us something that still lives in our memories. The characters they created, the laughs they generated, the moments of joy they delivered into our living rooms. That part was real. That part will always be real. Oh, but the entertainment industry of the 1970s and 1980s was not built to protect the people who powered it. Financial advisors were rare. Ironclad contracts for performers were rarer. The idea that studios and networks had any obligation to set their stars up for life after the show ended, that was almost unheard of. Fortunes were made and lost with terrifying speed, and the cameras never caught any of it. The next time you're watching a rerun of Sanford and Son, or The Jeffersons, or Different Strokes, really look at the faces, not just the characters, the real human beings underneath them. Every single one had a story that the laugh track never told. Thanks for watching. If this video meant something to you, please share it, because these stories deserve a bigger audience than the one they've been getting. Yet subscribe if you haven't, like if you got something out of it, and I will see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves out there. And hey, pay your taxes. Red Fox is absolutely watching.